There's a real sense of tension building among the fans right now, and you can feel it in every conversation surrounding who's going to take charge next. The search for a new permanent manager has dragged on, and after everything that's happened recently, there's a mix of uncertainty, frustration, and even a bit of fear about what comes next. The reality is, this decision is massive. It's not just about filling a vacancy. It's about setting the direction of the club for the next few years, and that's why emotions are running high. When you look at the names being linked, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence across the board. There's no standout, no obvious candidate that makes everyone sit back and say, "That's the one." Instead, it feels like we're looking at a long list of possibilities, some more realistic than others, and trying to make sense of who could actually step into the role and deliver what's expected at a club of this size. And while some people pay close attention to odds and speculation, the truth is that those things rarely tell the full story. They might hint at who's in the conversation, but they don't decide the outcome. So what you're left with is a wide pool of potential managers, and the challenge becomes separating the serious contenders from the names that are just being thrown around. Some of them have solid credentials, others are more speculative, and a few simply don't make sense when you really break it down. But this is the situation as it stands, and it's one that requires a clear head when analyzing it. Not every name deserves the same level of attention, and not every option carries the same level of risk. There are certain figures that can be dismissed almost immediately, whether it's because they've just taken on a new role or because their current situation makes a move completely unrealistic. That allows the focus to shift onto those who could genuinely be in contention, even if some of them still feel like a stretch. And within that group, you've got a mix of experience levels, tactical approaches, and managerial profiles, which makes the whole discussion even more complex. Take someone like Keith Andrews, for example. He's not a name that's been heavily linked with the job, and for many supporters, he might not even be on the radar at all. But when you look at what he's been involved in recently, there's a level of intrigue there. The work done this season has caught attention, and there's no denying that he's been part of something impressive. That kind of momentum can sometimes push a name into the conversation, even if it wasn't expected. At the same time, there's a big difference between being an interesting option and being a realistic appointment. That's where the doubts start to creep in. It's one thing to admire what someone has achieved in a specific environment, but it's another to imagine them stepping into a role with far greater expectations, pressure, and scrutiny. And that leap is often where things fall apart. Not every promising coach is ready for that kind of jump, no matter how good their recent results have been. There's also the question of whether success in one system can translate into another. We've seen it before, managers thriving in a certain setup and then struggling when they move on. It's not always about ability. Sometimes it's about fit, timing, and circumstances. That uncertainty makes it difficult to fully commit to certain candidates, even if they look appealing on paper. You start to wonder whether they would actually suit the demands of the role, or whether it would be a gamble that carries too much risk. Then you've got other names who have been more consistently linked and seem to have built a stronger case for themselves. Managers who have worked within the league or understand the environment bring a different kind of appeal. They've already shown that they can handle the challenges that come with Scottish football, and that familiarity can be a major advantage. It's not just about tactics, it's about knowing how to navigate the expectations, the intensity, and the unique pressures that come with the job. But even then, it's not straightforward. Overachieving with a smaller club is one thing, but stepping into a position where winning is the minimum requirement is something else entirely. The margin for error becomes incredibly small, and the spotlight is always there. That's why experience at the highest level often becomes such a key factor in these discussions. It's not just about potential, it's about proven ability to deliver under pressure. And that brings us to another group of candidates, the ones who generate a lot of debate because of their background, but also raise serious questions. Former players, for example, always spark interest among supporters. There's a connection there, a sense of familiarity that naturally draws people in. But when you strip that away and focus purely on their managerial credentials, the conversation becomes a lot more complicated. Being a great player doesn't automatically translate into being ready for a role like this. Management is a completely different challenge, and without the necessary experience, it can quickly become overwhelming. That's why there's always hesitation when these kinds of names come up. It's not about doubting their passion or understanding of the club, It's about whether they've had enough time to develop the skills needed to succeed in such a demanding position. You also have to consider how the fans would react to certain appointments. This is a support that expects ambition, clarity, and a clear identity on the pitch. Any decision that feels underwhelming or uninspired is going to be met with resistance, and that can create problems before a new manager has even had a chance to settle in. The atmosphere around the club matters, and getting the fans on side early can make a huge difference. At the same time, there's always the temptation to take a risk on someone who represents a more modern approach. Coaches who bring fresh ideas, different philosophies, and a forward-thinking style can be incredibly exciting. They might not have the same level of experience, but they offer something different, something that could potentially elevate the team in new ways. The challenge is balancing that excitement with the need for stability and reliability. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about making an interesting appointment. It's about getting it right. The wrong decision doesn't just set the team back on the pitch, it affects everything around the club. Confidence drops, momentum disappears, and suddenly you're back in the same position, searching for answers all over again. That's why every option needs to be carefully considered, every strength and weakness weighed up before any final call is made. And as the speculation continues to build, one thing is clear, there's no easy answer. Every candidate comes with their own set of pros and cons, and no matter who eventually takes the job, there will always be differing opinions about whether it was the right choice or not. As the list of potential names keeps circulating, the conversation naturally shifts towards those who, on paper, might seem like credible options but still leave a lingering sense of doubt. There are managers out there doing solid work, building teams, improving players, and getting results that exceed expectations. That kind of profile always attracts attention, especially when a club is searching for a fresh direction. But even then, there's a line between being impressive in your current role and being truly ready to take that next massive step. You can look at a coach who's transformed a side into something competitive, someone who's implemented a clear style of play and made noticeable progress over the course of a season. Those are all positives, no question about it. The ability to develop players and create a system that works consistently is something every club values. But when the spotlight gets brighter and the expectations increase tenfold, it becomes a completely different challenge. That's where the real test begins, and not everyone passes it. There's also the reality that some names start gaining traction simply because they fit a certain narrative. Whether it's their background, their nationality, or a connection that aligns with decision-makers behind the scenes, these factors can sometimes push a candidate further into the conversation than their experience alone might justify. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the wrong choice, but it does raise questions about whether the decision would be based purely on footballing merit. Then you've got those who are still very much in the early stages of their managerial journey. They might have shown glimpses of potential, maybe even achieved something noteworthy in a short period of time, but the overall body of work just isn't there yet. And that lack of experience becomes hard to ignore when you're talking about a role that demands immediate results. It's not a development job, it's a position where success is expected from the very beginning. The pressure that comes with that expectation can't be overstated. Every decision is scrutinized, every result analyzed, and every setback magnified. For a manager who's still learning their trade, that environment can be unforgiving. It's not just about tactics or training sessions. It's about handling the media, managing personalities, and dealing with the constant demand for success. Without that foundation of experience, it becomes a risky proposition. At the same time, there are names being mentioned who do have experience, but perhaps not in a way that aligns with what supporters want to see. Style of play becomes a major talking point here. Identity matters, especially at a club with a strong tradition of attacking football and high standards. Bringing in someone whose approach doesn't match that identity can create a disconnect almost immediately, regardless of their track record elsewhere. You might have a manager who's proven they can organize a team defensively, grind out results, and compete in difficult situations. There's value in that, especially in certain competitions where pragmatism is required. But if it comes at the cost of the style and philosophy that fans expect week in and week out, then it becomes a difficult sell. The balance between results and entertainment is always delicate, and getting it wrong can lead to frustration building quickly. There's also the case of managers who have operated at a high level but find themselves in a different position now, perhaps after a difficult spell at a bigger club. These situations are always interesting because they bring a mix of proven quality and recent uncertainty. It raises the question of whether their struggles were down to the environment they were in or whether it points to deeper issues in their approach. Sometimes, a fresh start can reignite a career. A new setting, different expectations, and a chance to rebuild can bring out the best in a manager who's previously shown what they're capable of. But there's always that risk attached, especially when recent results haven't been convincing. It becomes a gamble, one that could either pay off in a big way or lead to more inconsistency. And then there are those names that feel exciting purely because they're different. Coaches from other leagues, perhaps with a reputation for progressive football, modern tactics, and innovative ideas. These are the kinds of appointments that can energize a fan base, create a sense of anticipation, and bring something new to the table. The unknown factor can be appealing, especially when it comes with a promise of evolution. But again, it comes back to that same question. Can they handle the demands of this specific role? Success in one league doesn't automatically translate to another, and adapting to a new environment takes time. Time, unfortunately, is not something that's always available. The expectation to deliver quickly means that any period of adjustment has to be short, and not every manager can make that transition smoothly. As all these different profiles are weighed up, it becomes clear just how complex the decision really is. It's not just about picking the most talented manager or the most experienced one. It's about finding the right fit, someone who aligns with the club's identity, understands the expectations, and has the ability to deliver results while maintaining a style that supporters can get behind. The debate will continue, opinions will clash, and every supporter will have their own preferred candidate. Some will prioritize experience, others will look for innovation, and some will simply want someone who understands what the club represents. And with so many different factors at play, it's no surprise that there's no clear consensus emerging. What makes this situation even more intense is the feeling that this appointment could define the next chapter. Get it right, and it could lead to stability, success, and a renewed sense of direction. Get it wrong, and it risks prolonging the uncertainty that's already been hanging over the club. That's why every name being discussed carries weight, and why the scrutiny around this decision is only going to grow stronger as time goes on. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In a development that has stirred debate across Scottish football, whispers continue to circulate that Celtic may be on the brink of a remarkable legal victory over the SPFL, one that could see a previously disputed title restored to the Parkhead club. While no official confirmation has been issued, sources close to the matter suggest that proceedings behind closed doors have moved decisively in Celtic's favor. The case, long regarded as complex and politically sensitive, centers on governance and procedural integrity during a contentious campaign. Insiders claim that Celtic's legal team mounted a robust argument, challenging the decision-making framework that led to the stripping or withholding of the title in question. If these reports hold true, it would mark a significant moment not only for the club but for the wider credibility of league administration in Scotland. Around Glasgow, supporters have begun to speculate with cautious optimism. There is a sense that justice, as they see it, may finally be within reach. Yet others within the game remain wary, mindful that such a ruling could open the door to further disputes and set a precedent that reshapes how titles and outcomes are contested off the pitch. Within Hampton corridors, the mood is said to be tense. Officials are believed to be preparing for multiple scenarios, including the potential fallout from reinstating a championship retrospectively. The implications could stretch far beyond a single trophy, touching financial distributions, historical records, and even European placements. For now, all remains unofficial, confined to informed whispers and guarded conversations. But should the speculation prove accurate, Scottish football may soon witness one of its most controversial reversals, one that would reignite old rivalries and add another dramatic chapter to Celtic's storied history. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.